Friday edition, Mr. Relevant, presented by Door County Distillery. Alex Strouf hanging with you from the Gruberl offices, One Call That's All studio at the Avenue. Beautiful downtown Milwaukee. Josh DiMaggio will join us momentarily. Tiny Hands, Hunter Vaughn, per usual, running the show back at the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Huge football weekend, not only in the state of Wisconsin, but just overall. Some really, really fun matchups in the NFL this upcoming weekend. So we will dive into that and all of those, right? I mean, the main two, aside from Packers-Texans, which is just such a great matchup, is Lions-Vikings, which is a first place for the NFC North battle between those two teams, as the Lions lose Aiden Hutchinson for the season and the Vikings still undefeated. Those two teams go head to head, same time as Packers Texans, which I don't love. You know, I really thought we'd get Lions Vikings, America's game of the week, later slate. You've got kind of a trash Sunday night game. It's Steelers and Jets, which is a little bit appealing, but with Rodgers and Devontae. But and then obviously you've got a Super Bowl rematch from last year with Chiefs and Niners. So you've got some really fun football games this weekend. Ravens Buccaneers too on Monday night. That's a really fun game too. So NFL slate is phenomenal for Week 7. We will dive into that. We will also make some picks on the Underdog app, UnderdogFantasy.com. But no bigger matchup this weekend. That's not true at all. I was being facetious. There's bigger matchups than Wisconsin and Northwestern. I mean, like that. There's many bigger matchups than that, but it is still kind of a fun one. The Badgers seem like they have I don't want to say figured it out, but a really nice win last weekend at Rutgers shows you that this team is capable of showing up in the big moment, and that Braden Locke is maybe a good college quarterback. I don't want to get ahead of myself because we did that with Mertz, who Hunter will still swear to his grave is good.
He was great.
But Locke, okay, you and I both know great's an overstatement, right?
Paul Chryst ruined him. Like, can we just be honest about that?
That's what you love to say. Yeah, when you play poorly under multiple head coaches and multiple different programs, it's the one head coach's fault.
Played poorly. He literally led the country in completion percentage and had like 8 turnovers over a season and a half. Played poorly. Stop it. You didn't watch it down in Florida. You're just trying to attach a label to Graham Mertz. Don't even try.
I am. You're right. Yeah, no, you were right on that assessment. I won't argue with it. But you know, when you look at this game at Northwestern and they're playing in the Baby Stadium, right on Lake Michigan, beautiful view, not a lot of fans. Northwestern 3-3 on the year. They're fine, but you can't forget what they did last year. They came into Wisconsin and ultimately knocked them off. Losses to Washington and Indiana in conference play, which is still weird to wrap my head around. Washington and Northwestern being a Big Ten game is so strange. Losing to Indiana and beating last week on the road at Maryland, 37-10 win for Northwestern. So also coming off a big win are the Wildcats, as the Badgers went to Rutgers last week and just smoked them. Braden Locke looked the part. Tyree Walker shows that he is the best running back at Wisconsin. No disrespect to Chez Malusi, who left the program, but Walker's a stud. Like, he looks like a Wisconsin running back, which, to be real honest with you, Braylon Allen obviously had his flashes, but it's been a minute since you've looked at a running back and gone, ooh, that's a Wisconsin running back. And Braylon was homegrown, and he was a heavy runner, and you know he's doing a nice job now in the NFL in his rookie season with the Jets. But Tyree Walker looks the part. Hunter, do you agree with that as a big Badger fan, the resident Badger fanatic on this panel? Tyree Walker looks like a Wisconsin running back to me, and he especially looked the part last week against Rutgers.
Yeah, and I think it's the fact that Walker feels like at any moment he's going to break a run in between the tackles off for a huge gain. I haven't felt that way with Chez Malusi. Like, he would do it every now and again, maybe. But then, like you said, Braylon Allen, like, his big run was, oh, man, he got first and 10. He got an 11-yard carry. This is feeling really good with the running game. And I really like while it's a joke, the dairy raid, because this is still the Badgers. They're going to run the ball 40 times in the game, but they're just going to run it out of the shotgun. They're going to run RPO stuff. They're going to just have a modern offense, but it's still Wisconsin football, and they're going to pound the rock, and I love it. And Walker is an absolute dude.
He is a dude. He is an absolute dude. Josh DiMaggio has arrived from his conflict, I guess we should say. Joshy, yeah, you are. You're high demand, man.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing wrong with that. You're kind of a big deal, man. It's been cool to see your ascension to superstardom. Tyree Walker, we were discussing, the Badgers running
dog.
back. He's a stud. We get to hear you on Wisconsin College Game Day this weekend?
You sure can.
Pre and post?
Just pre. Me, Brad Nortman, Hunter is also part of it. Do we have a third on that show? I haven't even looked. Mertzy going to be with us?
I think Mertzy should be there. I don't think there's any conflicts for him, so full crew.
Glad you guys know. Glad you guys know your crew.
Love that.
So you can catch Joshy DiMaggio, Hunter Vaughn, Adam Mertz, and the former Badgers punter Brad Nortman beginning at 9 a.m. tomorrow on ESPN Wisconsin, previewing Badgers Northwestern. Big win for Bucky this weekend, Joshy.
You certainly would hope so.
It's a revenge game.
It is, and I feel like every time you're playing the Northwestern, especially in this high school stadium that they've got them playing out of right now.
It's a beautiful view, though. Beautiful view.
The Badgers love to historically lay eggs at 11 a.m. in the middle of fall to Northwestern, but I just think this team has the vibes in the right spot. They've kind of figured out some things on offense where it doesn't look totally inept and incompetent. So I do have a good feeling about this game. I think the way I was 3 weeks ago versus today has changed a lot, and a lot of it starts with the offense. Tyree Walker, Locke, Vinny Anthony, Kakahuna. Like, it's just so many guys out there that you're like, yeah, I've seen this, and now I'm seeing it more consistently.
Yeah, but and I want to ask this question quick before we wrap up our Badgers talk for the day. But who's been the biggest surprise for the Badgers, specifically offensively?
I think it's Locke, to be frank. I think he's unlocked a level with this downfield passing. It's a lock that he's a lock. I think he's opened up downfield. I mean, Tyree Walker, I think we all expected good things.
We expected him to play a role.
Yes.
Right? And like, so for a guy like Vinny Anthony, where I'm going to go, you didn't expect him to be the leading receiver through 6 games.
No, definitely not. And that's been a great thing. But I think it all starts with the QB, as we always do on this conversation. But I think he's outperformed even my expectations to what he's been.
100%. Yeah, completing just under 60% of his passes, 900 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in the couple of starts he's made since TVD went down. So, Locke has played much better than I think any of us expected. And Hunter, I think it was you that made the point earlier this week, or maybe it was last week. The thing with this offensive system that Phil Longo runs is the quarterbacks they've had haven't had time. And Braden Locke has been here since the beginning of the regime. Got some time last year when Tanner Mordecai went down. And now, obviously, will be the starter of the remainder of the season with Tyler Van Dyke out for the year. He's had time to develop. He's had time to grow in the system. He's had time to learn the playbook. And I feel like the last few weeks and the last few wins, it has shown, right? The 52-6 win over Purdue and the 42-7 win over Rutgers. Braden Locke's look great. The offenses look great. They've scored a combined 94 points in 2 games in the Big Ten. That's impressive no matter who you're playing. Even if it's Purdue fired their offensive coordinator and Rutgers, who I think a lot of people actually viewed as a pretty good team, beating them 42-7, a 35-point win, is certainly not what you're used to out of this Wisconsin offense, especially under the Luke Fickell regime. So credit where credit is due there.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I was talking with one of our producers here at ESPN Madison, Ryan Wollersheim, also a huge Badger fan, and like one of the things that he noticed with Locke is the fact that he's willing to push the ball down the field, which is something you need to do with these air raid route concepts that Phil Longo wants to run. Is you have to force the defense to defend the entire field. Mordecai and TVD, they were like, oh, I don't want to make a mistake, so I'm just going to try and dink and dunk and make my way down. And all that does is force the defense to do what they've done to Wisconsin football for decades now, and that's stack the box, play close to the line of scrimmage, and you don't have to defend everything. Braden Locke has played in this type of offense since he was in high school, and he's just like, no, I'm just going to throw it down the field. F it. Vinny Anthony's somewhere down there.
Way to pay homage to our guy Jaden Reed. Well done. So Badgers going to win this weekend. That's how I feel.
55-7.
I think they've arrived.
We just we just ended up in the Michael Scott, like the where he quotes Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But that one went triple deep. It went Hunter, then Jaden Reed, and then Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins. That was a 3-level quote there.
Quoteception.
Gotta respect the quoteception on display here on Mr. Irrelevant. Very well done. All right, let's move on to Packers Texans, because I think this is, and I was just listening to Carlin and Joe on ESPN Radio. They were saying this could be a Super Bowl preview. The question was, do you think Chiefs, Niners, or Packers and Texans is the more likely Super Bowl matchup? And both of them answered Packers Texans, which shows you once again what the national pundits and talking heads think about the Green Bay Packers. Despite not having a signature win under their belt here in 2024, they are still viewed as real contenders. And rightfully so. But no signature win is still something that I think some of us Packers fans are waiting to see. And you have plenty of opportunity the rest of the season. Your first 6 weeks weren't the most challenging, right? Obviously, Philadelphia is a challenging opponent, and you lost. Minnesota's undefeated. Tells you lost. But you get the 4 wins you should get, right? You beat the 4 teams that aren't going to be playoff teams. You got the wins you need to get. Tennessee won't be a playoff team. Indianapolis won't be a playoff team. The Rams probably won't be a playoff team, and the Cardinals won't be a playoff team. And you won really big last weekend. It was the first game this season where Jordan Love looked like he was in control. He had his groove back. He had his rhythm. Threw 4 touchdown passes. Last season, it took about 2.5 months for Jordan Love to really feel like he was in control and get his rhythm and look like the guy we now expect, and ultimately the Packers paid $55 million a year. I think the good news is Jordan Love continues to grow and evolve into one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, is the grace period's going to get shorter and shorter. He didn't really play in the preseason, and by he didn't really play, I mean he played 3 plays and threw the ball twice. He played the opener, looked a little rusty, looked like it took him a minute to get going, and then he goes down on one of the final plays. Misses the next 2 weeks. So now we are at, hasn't played a football game for 3 weeks when he returns against the Vikings. Seemed like he knocked the rust off in the second half of that game, and then, had some questionable decisions against the Rams, but looked totally in control against the Cardinals. That is the Jordan Love you should expect against a good Houston Texans defense on Sunday. The Jordan Love you saw last week is the Jordan Love you should expect. If that is not the Jordan Love that shows up, all criticism is fair. This is a huge matchup for the Packers. Not only are they in desperate need of a signature win, but they are in desperate need to keep pace with the top of the NFC North. If the Vikings beat the Lions on Sunday, you have a 6-0 first place team. 4-3 looks a little bit ugly when compared to 6-0. Right? I mean, a 4-3 team versus a 6-0 and 4-2 Lions, 6-0 Vikings and 4-2 Lions. You're still in third place, and you've got a lot of ground to make up all of a sudden. If you're a Packers fan, you obviously hope for a Packers win and a Lions win this weekend. Get rid of the undefeated team. But the Lions, I mean, they are a really good football team. Obviously, they take a big hit losing Aiden Hutchinson. But all in all, they are stacked offensively. I mean, they are such a good team. They are the cream of the crop. Cream of the crop, Joshy? Is that right?
That's the one. You nailed it.
Thanks, bud.
Way to go.
Cream of the crop. Thank you, Hunter. Cream of the crop in the NFL, not just the NFC. They are the cream of the crop in the NFL. I got to stop saying that phrase because I wasn't even positive I used it right. So I think this is going to be a shootout. Like, I don't see a world in which Houston dominates Green Bay or vice versa. I just don't. I think these are 2 young quarterbacks thrown into the national spotlight. You get Jim Nantz and, Tony Romo on the call on Sunday, which means it's going to be blasted to a ginormous national audience. 2 teams that got a playoff win, 2 quarterbacks that got their first playoff wins under their belt last year. This is a huge game for both sides. And I think it's going to be a total shootout. And, I view it as like a 27-24 final score, and it could go either way. I think the Packers ultimately win, and I think, as somebody that roots for drama, they're going to win on a Brandon McManus walk-off. Like, that is the way you want to chalk this one up. Brandon McManus walks it off at Lambeau Field. That'd be a really fun way for the Packers to advance to 5-2. Joshy?
This is just, we got a kicker redemption you're looking for here. You're looking to get that in your past. Try to call your shot.
We got a kicker.
Do we?
I think so. But for what it's worth, and I looked this up this morning on Jed, Gabe, and Chewy with you, Joshy, but for what it's worth, Brandon McManus' last time out at Lambeau Field was September 22nd of 2019. In that game, he made a 30-yard field goal, went 1 for 1 on field goals, made a 30-yarder, but he missed an extra point.
Huh?
He's looking for Lambeau redemption.
For his missed extra point?
Yeah.
I think he's looking for career redemption.
That as well, but also Lambeau redemption. You don't think there's a little thing in the back of his mind, because kickers, I imagine, obsess over their missed kicks. You don't think in the back of his mind, he's like, ah, shoot.
I would bet if you asked him, he doesn't remember missing an extra point in Lambeau Field.
I bet he does.
Well, why don't you go get credentialed and ask him?
Or I text Jason Wilde and Rob Domofsky and say, hey, fellas, do me a favor. Ask Brandon McManus if he remembers missing the extra point at Lambeau. I bet he does. Brad Nortman knows every one of his punts that's ever been blocked. Didn't happen very often. You don't think kickers don't know every extra point they've missed? It's a chip shot.
If you look at it, he's missed a lot of extra points.
Has he?
More than you would like.
How many are we talking?
I believe it's like double digits.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
I would
will
officially
confirm
like
the
to.
numbers.
I would officially like to rescind my "We have a kicker 2.0" comment.
Wow.
I'd like to rescind that.
That lasted all of like 45 seconds.
Hey,
Way to go.
Only firm takes on this show, Hunter. Only firm takes.
No, Strouf, you said that like you expect this to be a shootout. Like, why don't you see this potentially being a 17-10, 17-14 type of game where like the defenses just kind of have it figured out
These offenses
early?
are too good. Yeah, these offenses are too good. That's the way I view it.
In his career, Brandon McManus is 312. He's made 312 on 321 attempts.
So he's missed 9,
9.
not double digits.
Just under.
All right, I would like to re-give my take then.
So 9 is...
We have a kicker. Only 9 of them. That's not too bad.
I missed some before it got moved back.
Well, 2019 was before it got moved back, wasn't it? What year did it move back? Do you know?
I don't remember, but he was missing pretty much one a year there for a while. And then 2020, 3 of them. 2021, 1.
Oh, 2015 it moved back. That was way earlier than I thought.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're in year 10 of the extra point being further out?
Move it back. I don't care.
Move it back further?
No, move it closer to where it was.
Oh, go back to the original.
Or just make it 7 points. Who cares?
You want to eliminate kickers. That's where the Packers have you, Josh. You want to abolish kickers from the NFL.
Yeah. They're not football players.
Oh, whoa.
That's uncalled for.
They get to wear costumes. That's basically...
All right, well...
Except for Brad Norman. He was a house. Played middle linebacker.
He's a house.
He at least somewhat looks like an NFL football player. Some of those Mason Crosby, come on. Love you, but look at that guy.
Loved you, but
Yeah.
you're ridiculous.
That might be because like, do you think other punters also actually look like football players because like they have the more of a possibility
do.
of
Like
needing to make a tackle?
Marquette King looked like an NFL player.
Yeah.
Remember him? I think he was a Raiders punter.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been some ripped kickers, but a lot of that was compensating for being little pipsqueaks.
I don't know what we're doing here.
A little slap happy, feeling good.
Yeah, I see that.
Definitely
I see
a
that.
Friday.
So you want to abolish kickers. Yeah, it is. It is. All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. We come back. I want to rattle off our gut feelings. We're 6 weeks through the NFL season, entering the second trimester of the year. What are our gut feelings? What do we think we know about the Green Bay Packers? We'll dive into that coming up next. But first, got to tell you about my friends at Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in Door County. It's whiskey season, baby. Door County Distillery Bourbon, the single malt whiskey, 27-time gold medal award winner, or the rye whiskey. You can get it locally at any great liquor store. And if maybe whiskey's not your thing, I bet rum is, or gin is, or brandy, and your old fashions is. Door County Distillery makes it all, and they make it all well. Affordable, local, award-winning. DoorCountyDistillery.com to find the retailer nearest you, as well as a huge list of unique cocktail recipes. That is DoorCountyDistillery.com. We step aside for 60 seconds. When we return, got feelings on the Packers. How good is the NFC North, really? Underdog picks, what we learned, all still ahead. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf.
Happy spooky season. What's the best drink this October? My friends at Door County Distillery are going to teach me how to make it.
Fall in a glass, it's the Apple Butter Bourbon Fizz from Door County Distillery. All you got to do is scoop apple butter into a cocktail shaker, take 2.5 ounces of your bourbon, shake that, strain that, and then fill the rest of the cup with ginger beer. And if you like to, which I like to, dash a little cinnamon on top of that. Boom, shakalaka, you've got the Apple Butter Bourbon Fizz from Door County Distillery.
Cheers, the Apple Butter Bourbon Fizz. I'm not going to say it 5 times fast enough. There's like a apple cider taste to it.
Apple cider vibes, yeah.
That's like corn maze for adults drink. Is what that tastes like.
Check out their website with a huge list of unique cocktail recipes at DoorCountyDistillery.com. That's DoorCountyDistillery.com. Yeah, DoorCountyDistillery.com is the website. All right, I just want to see what we know, or what we think we know, is probably the better way to phrase that. About the Green Bay Packers. Just gut feelings. You know, heading into the biggest matchup of the year, you're 4-2 through the first third of the season. It's a good football team. I think we would all agree on that. This is a good football team. This is a good defense, 17 turnovers on the year. They've got a good quarterback. They've got a good young core of pass catchers, which includes the tight end Tucker Kraft, who's had an awesome season. O-line is good. Running back is good. You feel really good about this team. Great head coach. But what more do we know about the Green Bay Packers in 2024 at 4-2 through 6 weeks? I think gut feeling number one for me, Joshy, is Jaden Reed is that dude. He is the guy they've been searching for to replace Devontae Adams. He can do it all. And I think he will be the guy they stick with long term when it comes to that decision. Luckily, they don't have to worry about that for a little bit, a couple of years. But I feel like gut feeling number one for me is Jaden Reed is that guy. Joshy, any gripes? Not
at all. I don't like the way you phrased it, that guy. Stick with what you've been saying. He's a superstar. Let's not reinvent the wheel.
Gut feeling number one, Jaden Reed is a superstar.
Thank you.
There we go.
That's something we think we know.
Yes.
Or do we know?
I'm closer to we actually just know that.
I think I tend to agree, except I need to see it a little bit longer. But what he's done this season is unbelievable. You know, it's something we talked about. I think it was off the air, Joshy. We talked about this. But the Packers' superpower has been really, and this is something we talked plenty about, is their depth at wide receiver. But the thing about Jaden Reed is he's not getting wide receiver one targets.
Nope.
But he's putting up wide receiver one numbers.
Correct.
Is that sustainable? Or does he need to start getting targets, or at least the football in his hands, like he's a number one option?
I think it's sustainable insofar as he's going to have eruption games that even with the low amount of target share, he is going to have big plays and continue making them. And the Packers are going to continue to manufacture him some touches every single game. He's not going to be a Devontae Adams or, one of those guys, Justin Jefferson, where he's just hogging all of it because he's like an otherworldly physical talent. Jaden Reed just gets open. Jaden Reed just makes plays, and they don't need to necessarily funnel him the ball that much for it to be productive. I think week to week, you're going to see what we saw last week. He still scored a touchdown, but the numbers weren't all that gaudy. And then this week, next week, he's going to have 5 catches for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like that's just how the guy works.
Yeah, 34 targets, which leads the team by 2. Dontavian Wicks has 32 targets on the year. But listen to the conversion rate, right? When targeted to catches. So 34 targets for Jaden Reed. He's caught 27 of those.
Yes.
Good percentage.
Extremely efficient.
Dontavian Wicks, on the other hand, has been targeted 32 times. He has 11 catches.
Yeah.
He has 2 less targets and 16 less receptions than Jaden Reed.
Yeah, he certainly had a drops problem, Wicks, that is, but you also have to think about the context of how those two are targeted.
Yes.
Dontavian Wicks is just kind of a different athlete targeted in a different way. Like, Jaden Reed probably has 1 or 2 catches of just those like little pop passes things that they do, or those little just throw the ball out to the boundary and let Jaden Reed cook type things. He will get screens, stuff along those type of plays.
Yeah, also 110 yards rushing on the year for
Yeah.
the Packers' leading receiver, Jaden Reed. So he's over 550 all-purpose yards already.
Uh-huh.
He's going to have a 1,400-yard season.
Might just screw around and do that.
1,500-yard season.
Maybe
He's on pace for that.
maybe 2,000.
Okay, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. If he drops like 2 hundo receiving, though, on Sunday, I'll back it up.
All right.
I'll back it up. All right, gut feeling number 2 for me is Jeff Hafley's a really good defensive coordinator. I think through 6 weeks we can say that. Emphasizing turnovers, getting turnovers. Now, the one problem you still have with Jeff Hafley's D, but Joshy, I view this more as a player execution thing, is they can't get home rushing 4. But I don't know that that's a Hafley problem.
I don't think so at all. There have been a change up on the front. Who's the defensive line coach? That is now Rebrovich, I believe is his name.
That's correct.
And you've seen multiple people. Mike Wall talked about it. Chris Long talked about it. Everyone's talking about what the heck's going on with Rashawn Gary, and a lot of it's like he's just like kind of not getting off the ball, and he's making it easy on the offensive tackles to stop him. There needs to be some sort of fire lit under him, and I don't think it's lack of effort. I just think you need to try different things. The speed to power thing isn't really working right now for you for whatever reason, so we need to get creative. We need to run you on more stunts. We need you to be hounding the quarterback at a more consistent rate. And like, what's Jeff Hafley supposed to do about that?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It comes down to player execution ultimately. And,
Hey, how many times was Darnell Savage in the right spot but not making a play?
we'd be rich if we had a nickel for every time, right? Is Quay Walker the new Darnell? No, right? No, he's not quite that bad. Yeah.
Darnell Savage, by the way, got signed in Jacksonville for some reason, benched.
Oh, he's already been benched.
Yes.
I missed that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stinks. I'll say it. Gut feeling number 3, Darnell Savage ain't a good safety. We saw plenty of that over
Do
the
the
years.
Packers have 4 better safeties than Darnell Savage on their team right now?
At least 3.
Yeah.
McKinney, Bullard, and Evan Williams. Who's the 4th?
I don't know. Whoever. I was saying literally whoever is the 4th option.
Anthony Johnson Jr. is even still on the team? No, he's not.
I have to look at the depth chart.
I don't think he is. Yeah, no, you're right. The 4th safety, according to ESPN.com. Zane Anderson. Is he a real person?
Apparently, special teams delight, Zane.
Catano Ladapo.
I bet on Catan over...
Savage?
We haven't seen Catan at all, but I bet on him.
I think I would too. Other gut feelings. Jordan Love's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL for the next decade.
I believe that last year. I'm right there with you.
I tried to hold judgment on long-term solutions, right? Like I wanted to sign him. You pay the man. He did what he had to do. But when he is on, and we saw it last weekend against Arizona, he is unreal. And he just has some of those abilities that Rodgers had, right? The flick of the wrist, the unparalleled skill to fit balls into a tight window. And sometimes that's light, or sometimes that's luck. But he has made so many throws, not just this year, but last year too, where you go, wow, that reminds me of Rodgers. That's a gut feeling. I want to say the gut feeling is they're going to be in the race for the NFC North through the end of the year, but I don't know if I can say that for sure. Let's say they lose to the Lions once, they lose to the Niners, and let's just say they lose to the Texans, which I don't think they're going to. That's 5 losses. Is 12-5 even good enough to win this division? Through 6 weeks, I'm not confident it is. I think you might have a 13-win team in this division. And it'll be the Lions. I don't think it'll be the Vikings. I'm struggling to buy into the hype of the Vikings, which we'll talk about in a second. So all in all, going into this game, do you have any other gut feelings that make you go, yeah, I think this will definitely happen going forward or against Houston? Because what we know, we know. But I can't make predictions that Rashawn Gary's going to figure it out. I can't make predictions that, one of the receivers is going to clearly separate themselves and it'll be Reed and company, or Reed and Wicks, or Reed and Watson, or Reed and Dobbs.
I got a few I can add.
Go for it.
Evan Williams and Edgerrin Cooper are every down players, and that is soon. Two guys
I like that one.
That I think simply are going to create too many plays to take off the field. You will have to live with some mistakes. Everyone's told us how many mistakes that Edgerrin Cooper has made. I don't care.
Real quick.
Those other guys are making mistakes too.
On Williams, is there a package you'd like to see with him, Bullard, and McKinney on the field?
Yes, I think that should be their standard.
Is those three guys on the field always?
Yes.
Okay.
If Keyshawn Nixon, Halfley loves Keyshawn Nixon. If he feels comfortable with him outside,
I've been really impressed with him outside.
I thought he played really well last week, and I was impressed. I do think Carrington Valentine is another weapon where you can rotate in there as well. I just think that those three players are so damn good at what they do. They are nose for the football and always seem to be around the football, and that's something that you want.
Yeah, so on Cooper and Williams specifically.
Also, remember, I feel like we forgot. The Packers used to miss tackles all the time.
They sure did.
That's not happening.
No, I mean there's been few examples at least, right? Of course, there's missed tackles occasionally.
The NFL.
It's
the other guys are getting paid too.
Correct. Right. But all in all, it seems like that's cleaned up.
Yes.
You don't have a lot of the fears you did with Joe Barry anymore, right? Like, could Joe Mixon go for 120 this weekend? Yeah. But I don't know that I expect it. With Joe Barry, I grew to expect the opposing running back to go for $120.
I grew to expect the Packers getting beat in the most obvious way ever with every single opponent. Of course, Keenan Allen's going to be wide open over the middle of the field 17 times in this game. Of course, the rushing quarterback's going to have record-breaking numbers for first-half rushing yards.
Yeah.
All those things that everyone's like, you can't win if you do X, Y, Z. Well, Joe Barry let him do X, Y, Z.
Sure did. Any other gut feelings before we get to the NFC North?
Tucker Kraft is a top 5 tight end.
Tucker Kittle.
Then the other one would be the Packers are a top 2 offense in the league by the end of the year.
Who's number 1?
You can pick.
Detroit?
It could be Detroit. It could be Baltimore. Those things kind of have the way of figuring themselves out. But I think Jordan Love is built in a lab to beat the current NFL defenses. There is an article, I believe it's on Bleacher Report, where they call Jordan Love the trick shot artist of like today's age.
Yeah.
Where I don't know if he's being taught this or if it's just an innate thing. He looks at the too high shell thing that everyone's like, hey, they should ban it. Remember Mel Kiper wanted to ban the too high shell?
Yeah.
He looks at it and he throws into it, and it works a lot of the time. Now, there's mistakes are going to happen because that's just the nature of being that much of a threat deep down the field. But every offense you watch, Patrick Mahomes looks like late-stage Tom Brady, and not in the good way. Like dump-off passes, short stuff, just moving the chains. Jordan Love is ripping off 20-plus yard pass plays seemingly every drive. It's happening at a rate that it doesn't make sense. You watch all these other teams, and you're like, why does it look so hard? And it just doesn't look the same way when the Packers are on offense.
I must say, Jordan Love was built in a lab. Is quite an endorsement.
Uh-huh.
We're winning the Super Bowl, right? I mean, come on.
I got you that far.
We just did a gut feelings thing, and pretty much all my gut feelings were, we're better than everybody else. We have so many good problems to have.
Yeah.
The depth at defensive back, the depth at wide receiver, having a tight end that has developed into an unbelievable pass catcher. Does he still lead the league in yak for tight ends, yards after catch? He's got to be up there if he doesn't still.
I would imagine it has to be.
I don't think he had a ton against the Cardinals, so it may have moved. But, I mean, he has the George Kittle-esque ability to break loose after a catch.
As Marshawn Lynch once said, run through a mother bleeper's face.
And that is exactly what Tucker Kraft does.
You got it.
Run through a mother bleeper's face.
The only thing that is making me hesitant about even necessarily an NFC Championship game. It's just the amount of youth that are playing very, very important positions. And that's not something that's going to be a problem in the coming years, but there's still guys with like less than 17 games under their belt that are running around on this defense, even second year. Like some of the players for the Packers that are becoming, like Carl Brooks, becoming serious contributors.
Yeah,
they just
great point.
That guy plays like a third of a game.
How good have Goody's last 2 draft classes been? Because when you look at 23, you have so many contributors, right? Jaden Reed probably being the main one. Tucker Kraft, by the way, also a 23 draft pick. Carl Brooks, as you just mentioned.
Yes.
Who else am I missing that has been a huge contributor from last year's draft class? I mean, the list is long.
Yeah,
but those are probably
I'm
your main
having
3.
trouble remembering exactly.
Dontavian Wicks, Van Ness eventually will be.
Musgrave was on that. He hasn't been this year.
Obviously now on IR, right? Kobe Wooden's had some flashes. He was a rookie last year, but a really good class. Then you look already at guys that are contributing this year. You mentioned Edrin Cooper and Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, Jordan Morgan rotating in at right guard last week after coming back from the injury report. Like, they're already key contributors from this draft class 6 weeks into the season.
Yes.
So, not to get ahead of my skis here, because I think the Packers are Super Bowl good this year.
Your skis are in Ozaki County right now.
Yeah, but not to get ahead of my skis, which are in Ozaki County. Think about how damn good this team's going to be next year.
Yeah.
Everybody's back.
Everyone stresses growth isn't linear. Some guys will have natural regressions, but if you're piling on 4 or 5 guys per draft class that you're excited about, and 2 of them every year continue to excel and they're not peaking out, I mean, last draft looks like the rebuilding of an offense. This draft looks like the rebuilding of a defense, where you've got probably 2 guys you could say right now are almost guaranteed to be second contract guys in Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft. And that's massive for an offense. And then if you start looking at Bullard, Williams, Cooper, those guys, if they keep this up and don't have any struggles, big injuries, those are guys that they're just green and gold until Goody says no more.
Yeah. This is such a great problem to have. This team's so good. But so is Houston. And that's what makes Sunday so fun. I mean, you've got ballers all over the field, both sides of the ball for both teams. Could this really be a Super Bowl preview?
I think it could. It would be unlikely. They're two.
It's
very
unlikely.
teams.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's unlikely. I mean, it's
if both these teams are in the Final Four, I wouldn't be shocked.
Chiefs, Texans, Packers, Lions.
Why not?
If I tell you that is the AFC and NFC championship game respectively, you go, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yep. Checks out.
My only follow-up question would be, what happened to Baltimore? What happened to San Francisco?
Lamar Jackson in the playoffs happened. And
Yeah, he wasn't bad last year. Wasn't great in the AFC championship game.
Yeah, as to say, he was at home for the Super Bowl, so he wasn't good enough.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And Kyle Shanahan happened.
What do you mean?
Choker.
Oh, he's a good coach. If he's a choker, what's LaFleur? That's what I thought.
Getting better.
Getting better. Getting better. Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's take a look at the NFC North, because all 4 teams, if the playoffs started today, would make it. Bears 4-2, Packers 4-2, Lions 4-1, Vikings 5-0. Vikings and Lions go head-to-head Sunday, as mentioned, at noon. I believe that is a Fox game, while the Packers play on CBS. The Bears are 4-2. I don't care how easy their schedule's been. You can make the same case for the Packers. All 4 of the Packers' wins were against bad opponents. Same with the Bears, and that's okay. But when I look at this division, do I believe 4 teams can make the playoffs? Probably not. I believe the Bears will probably be the odd team out. As we get into division play here, as we continue to move on in the NFL season, you're going to have these teams beating up on each other. But if there's an odd man out, I think it's the Bears. And could they get a win over the Packers or the Vikings or the Lions? Of course. But if you look at the divisional schedule, You feel best about the Lions and Packers, Vikings third, and not a distant third. They're right behind the Packers. And then Bears fourth. And again, not a distant fourth because they're all pretty darn good and competitive. I think it's a year too early for the Bears to be a playoff team. And then I think the other three are going to get in, especially if the Vikings win on Sunday over the Lions. I just don't see how you start 6-0 and don't make the playoffs. Is that crazy? Could you go 6-0 and miss the playoffs? Sure. But in the NFC, 10 wins is good enough to get in. If you start 6-0, you start doing the math. You gotta go 4-6 over your last 10. I do the math there right? No, there's 17 games. You gotta go 4-7 over your last 11. Man, why do you guys make me do math?
You walked yourself into that.
I blame Hunter for that one.
What did I do?
Hunter.
You didn't stop me before I started trying to do math.
Yeah, but it's
Hunter,
way better when you struggle through it and then watching you get it wrong or realize that you actually got it right. Like, either way, it's a win for the show.
Hunter, I think you should get like an alarm, not a siren. We can't. Well, we could play that because we're not on the radio here on Mr.
True.
Elephant. Just every time he's flirting with math, just send off that noise.
It's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, that might have to start
Everybody
happening.
buckle in. Batten down the hatches. We got math happening.
You honestly might as well just have the fire department on speed dial. Because at some point, I'm just going to get stuck like the old AOL dial-up. I'm just going to... My brain's just going to stop working, stop functioning. And it's going to be the Joshy and Hunter show. Because I'm just not going to... Oh, yeah, that's 12. 14 minutes later.
Not to throw more math at you, though, but the Bears are absolutely frauds. So ESPN has their strength of victory.
Here we go. Yeah.
The Bears currently, their strength of victory, they are .182. The Packers are a 318 on strength of victory. The Bears .182.
What is the ideal?
Well, just the higher the number. So like Minnesota's undefeated, their strength of victory is a 533. The Bears' 182 is the second worst in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
So are we talking is this like a batting average number?
Yes.
So
the whole idea
is
is it's off of the teams that you've beat their record. And the Bears have the second worst of their opponents. So like as much as you can use...
I think their opponents...
Yeah.
The teams they've beat have a combined 4 wins, is my understanding.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying the Bears are better than they were last year, but like to act as though they're like they'd be good enough to be the second best team in any other division, I think is ridiculous. I've seen this for 30 years out of the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to beat the crap out of bad teams, and they're going to look terrible against good teams. Another team from the NFC North did this just 2 years ago. The Vikings went 13-4. Their 4 losses, they got blown out by the Cowboys, the Packers, and the Eagles, and then they lost like another close game. That's what this Bears team is going to be.
Most fraud team ever.
Yeah.
That team, if we remember, they lost to the Giants.
They sure did. Danny Jones. That's how Danny Jones got paid.
And everyone predicted it was going to happen, and it happened.
They were a huge fraud. Are the Vikings frauds? I don't want it. I don't know. I want a yes or no.
I don't know if I can say fraud. I think they are extreme overachievers, and I don't think they're as good as their record shows.
Agreed. I don't think they're as good as their record indicates, but I do not think they're frauds. I think they're a good football team.
Yep.
I think Kevin O'Connell's a good coach. I think the defensive coordinator, his name's escaping me right now.
Brian Flores
knows what he's doing and putting the guys in the right position. I think they're punching above their weight still, and a lot of that is by the. But good coaches get players to play above what their actual talent is. So I do think they are probably a playoff team. I do think Sam Darnold's going to come back to earth, and that might kind of equalize things for them. I believe he leads the league in turnover-worthy plays and does not lead the league in turnovers.
Yeah.
Which is typically something that will correct itself throughout the course of a season.
Yeah,
that's well said.
They feel like the type of team that like they're going to get into the playoffs. They'll win their wild card because they'll have to like go on the road to the NFC East team, win that, and then all of a sudden face like a legit team on the road in the divisional round, and then it's going to get ugly for them. So, like, they're still a solid team. They're just, that's their ceiling is like a divisional round loss for the Vikings.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with all that. Well said, fellas. All right, let's dive
You were
into
trying
this.
to get after us, too.
What's that?
You said you were trying to give it, don't say I don't know.
No, those were good answers.
Yeah, who knew?
I didn't know you were capable, to be real honest. I had no doubt in Hunter. I had zero doubts in Hunter. You, on the other hand, yes, see, you're making fart noises in the microphone now.
What
Shows
a
how mature
professional.
you are. Real grown up. Real oldest guy on the panel, real grown up. Unbelievable. Underdog app, underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code GoodKarma at signup. GOODKARMA, all one word. You get up to $1,000 deposit match and a free pick. You can win up to 1,000 times your money. Get it on the MLB action, get in on the college football action, get in on the WNBA action, and of course, about the picks we're about to make, in on the NFL action for the weekend. Joshy gave out some WNBA picks the other day. They went 2 of 3. So if you hit a flex play, you won money, like Joshy did. I made the mistake of going all in and using a profit boost. Fell one short.
I've become a flex every entry. It feels too good to look in, even if you haven't won everything and nailed them all perfect, to at least be close to where you started the weekend at.
Yeah, fair.
And then if you hit some of those bigger, like the touchdown ones I've been doing, some of those, even if you get 6 out of 7 or 7 out of 8, you're still making like really good profit on it. I also have to come clean. I have put in 8 different touchdown entries for the
Goodness gracious.
Hey, you can't win if you ain't trying.
That's true. We're not going to run through all those, though.
No.
We are going to get into my picks for Texans and Packers, though. Noon kickoff on the Underdog app. I'm using UnderdogFantasy.com right now, which you can see on the video stream at YouTube at ESPN Milwaukee at ESPN Madison. All right. 2 I feel really good about. Number 1 is Jordan Love higher on passing yards. That's 248.5. I think he goes over 250. I think this game's going to be a shootout, and they might be playing from behind at some point in this game. I think they win the game, but they could be playing from behind. So I think Jordan Love's going to let it sling. I will go over 248.5. Although there is the other one that I really like for Jordan Love. So Joshy and Hunter, I will need a vote before we submit this. We either go Jordan Love higher than 248.5 or his longest completion is longer than 37.5.
I've used the longer completion 3 of the past 4 weeks, and I'm not going to be stopping it because it seems like 40-yard passes are just part of the offense.
Oh, see, I was going the other way. That just feels way riskier than
Normalized? You're looking for it to correct?
Yeah. Like, I just feel like total yards, like that's something that you can kind of figure out and you know what to expect there. Big plays, like that can just not happen for some reason. But, I mean,
That's true,
Josh is the one that's
the
been
other
winning
one-
on this. I haven't, so I would favor Josh here.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Hunter, just because he's on a hot streak. But the other thing that I always feel like is free money on the Underdog app is the longest rush for a quarterback. It's only 6.5 yards for Jordan Love. So if we click higher on a 6.5 yard longest rush, he rushes for a 7-yard rush. Joshy? Where are we leaning? Still longest completion?
I like longest completion. I do think both of those are very playable. I feel the best almost about the rush, though. Jordan Love is just running now.
All right, let's do it.
his knee's
6.5
feeling good.
longest rush higher. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to see. So, okay.
And
so,
this team brings pressure, meaning the Texans.
so if he can elude it,
If he climbs pocket, maybe evades one guy, there's probably going to be some people open, some places to run.
all right, let's throw Jordan Love longest rush in there, higher than 6.5 yards for longest rush. That is our Jordan Love entry. I think Christian Watson's getting in the end zone this weekend. Christian Watson higher than half of a rush receiving touchdown. Then we just got to pick a Texan. Who do we like on the Texans? Dalton Schultz higher than 3.5 receptions.
The one I feel most confident about, and it's probably one that's not fully like a 1-to-1 there. Joe Mixon touchdown. Teams love to use the running back when they get close to the goal line against the Green Bay Packers. The 47 total in this game without Nico Collins. I think they're going to rely on Joe Mixon heavily.
Ooh.
Plus, is that a vulture
10.
I see on that too? So even if another running
Sure
back
is.
for the Texans gets it,
If
it still
Dario
counts.
Gumbalwale gets in,
Badgers legend. All right, so just to recap, Jordan Love, higher longest rush, 6.5 yards, 7 yards or more on a single rush from Jordan Love. Christian Watson, higher than half of a touchdown. Joe Mixon, higher than half of a touchdown. That pays 12.9%. 12.9x. So $10 wins you 129. $20 wins you $258.
That would have been a great time for the math sounder, even though you were doing it with a calculator basically in front of you.
Or we could go.
Yeah,
the flex
I didn't count
play.
it. The
If 2 out of
computer's
3
doing it for him.
If two out of 3 hit on a $20 entry, you get $43. If all 3 hit, you get $129. On the flex play or the standard play,
I flex that for sure, especially since you've got touchdowns.
2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So 2 correct, $43. So still, if you're putting in 20 to 43, that's a win. If all 3 hit, you get up to 129.
Yeah.
Entry submitted on Underdog Fantasy.
I do want to add something quick here. If you are one of those people looking to maybe dabble in some of the TD entries that have been going on, Deebo Samuel, Tank Bigsby, 2 guys I want to have in every one of those.
Oh, you're high on the Tank.
Uh-huh.
No Tank Dell appreciation?
I also do like Tyreek Hill, which you get a pretty good number at. Mike McDaniel has to do something, has to figure out how to score with his good players.
Yeah, and he's a good coach. So
Right.
you would think they got it figured out by now. It sounds like Tua will return at some point, but they have been completely inept offensively without him. So we will see going forward. Underdog app, underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code GOODKARMA at sign up. All one word, GOODKARMA at sign up. All right, time now to wrap up the show as we always do. You learn something new every day. We learn something new today. It's time now for what we learned. I want to dive into this Tony Bennett situation, the former Green Bay Preble grad. That's the high school I should have gone to. Fun fact. My brother got kicked out of that high school. That's a story for another day. And of course, UW Green Bay guard, helping them get to the NCAA tournament in the 90s. Won a national championship at Virginia. Just weeks before the college basketball season tips off, announces his retirement today at the age of 55. Doesn't sound like it's a health thing. It sounds like it's an era thing. We're in the age of NIL. We're in the age of transfer portal. Tony Bennett calling it quits, and I believe it's Ron Sanchez, the assistant coach, will be the new head coach of the Virginia Cavaliers. This is a fascinating story to me because of the timing. Right? You've seen all sorts of guys go out as NCAA shifts to more professional sports. Nick Saban, and Mike Krzyzewski and Jay Wright at Villanova. These big-time, big-profile coaches saying, yep, can't do it anymore. Take the Packers defensive coordinator, for example. Jeff Hafley, who was the head coach at Boston College, said, yep, I'm not doing this anymore. And I feel like this is just going to be a more and more common theme in college athletics. Great coaches from times past realizing it is no longer college athletics. The thing that you got into this for and the reason you love it no longer exists. This is professional sports. Joshy?
In a profession that contains nepotism to an untold degree, Tony Bennett, obviously a product of nepotism. Now, nice guy, good coach, but the opportunities wouldn't have come without his father.
Without the last name, right?
In a place where nepotism reigns so supreme and guys get retread, they find new jobs. Rick Pitino's got a damn job again for some reason. Good. Go. Get away. If you're going to complain about it, you got problems, I don't like how this goes, too bad. Someone else will take your job.
That's a little bit of a hard-o angle by you.
Tony Bennett will live a long, fruitful life getting paid millions. I'm sorry that it became harder to do your job at Virginia. Wah.
It's literally just a different approach that he needed to take. Instead of having it just be about
so you're
ball.
Team Joshy here.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Like, instead of just it being about ball, you have to be a CEO now. People aren't cut out to be a CEO, but there's other people who are good at it.
You know what Tony Bennett missed out
I'm sure
on.
Walmart's hiring a greeter. Go have fun.
Give out the stickers. You know what Tony Bennett missed out on, and I only say this half jokingly. Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj. Now the GM, the general manager of St. Bonnie's. I feel like hiring a general manager is the correct move for college football and college basketball programs now. Because you're constantly working on internal recruitment. You can hire somebody to do that so the head coach can be all about ball. So maybe not Woj specifically, but hiring a GM. That's what Bennett missed out on. Is that a crazy take, or am I onto something there?
I mean, you're really only restricted by how much money the university has. So, yeah, I mean, you could pay somebody as much as you want there. So I don't think it's a terrible idea. But then at the same time, like, I think it just gets weird if the players are going to the GM with issues or frustrations, and then that leaks into the on the field or on the court issues that they could be having. So then how does that get handled by the head coach? You'd have to very clearly define those lines, and that could just get messy.
Fair point. All right. Well, there you go. Tony Bennett gone from Virginia.
Wah.
That's how they feel. Wah. Hopefully that's not what we're saying at the end of the weekend. Double winning weekend. Wisconsin and Packers both get it done, Joshy.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hunter.
Badgers for sure. I'm a little iffy on the Packers.
Boo.
I'm Team Joshy. Hell yeah, brother.
Before we go, though, you're trying to sneak out of this, and I'm not letting this happen. Wednesday's show, you said Thursday Night Football, Broncos Saints, sneaky good game. It was 33-10. It was one of the worst games of the NFL season. You're an idiot.
That does it for us today. We'll talk to you Monday, recapping Packers and Texans beginning at 12:30 on the ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison YouTube pages. Available wherever you get your podcast. Of course, brought to you by our friends at Door County Distillery. Locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits. Thanks to Joshy. Hunter was here, too. I'm Alex Strouf. We'll talk to you on Monday. Peace.